Again, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this SEDA regular meeting to order with roll call, please.
Thank you for your patience. SEDA member, sorry, I'm having a moment. SEDA member Van Gordon. SEDA member Weber.
Here.
SEDA member Moe.
Here.
SEDA member Rodley.
Here.
SEDA member Blackwell.
Here.
SEDA member Doyle. SEDA member Pictionary.
Here.
And SEDA member Lovell.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before we get into this work session, excuse me, I'd like to read some instructions. There is one time designated for public testimony this evening under business from the audience. If you are attending in person, please complete the requested speak card located at the city recorder's desk in the council chambers and turn them into the city recorder. If you are joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak either of those times, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The order of public testimony is as follows: is first anyone in person in the council chambers, and secondly, whoever has raised their virtual hand. Next item.
Your first item on the work session is a plan eligible project support with Ellie Camp.
Testing. Happy New Year, SEDA board. It's good to see you all. Today we are here to have a work session about eligible projects in the urban renewal districts that have requests for funds. We have multiple developers and landowners specifically in downtown with interest in building mixed-use developments. These folks have asked how to engage the board for considerations of funds to support the gaps in their project. They indicate that their projects meet the goals defined in the Blue Mackenzie project. Just a reminder that those are to create a proof of concept for viability and profitability of new construction in downtown Springfield, to provide a market rate high density housing project to serve as a comparable for financials, and to create a dense development in downtown. Right now, we don't have a clear or fair way to have developers bring their projects to the board to request funds. Tonight, I'd like to hear from you if there is interest in establishing a process for requests of funds to support the funding gap for new or redevelopment projects that meet our urban renewal goals in our plans. A little bit of background, your board briefing memo indicates other communities in Oregon who have found ways to support requests for funds for catalytic projects in their urban renewal boundaries. These communities have a range of incentives, but I chose to highlight the ones that focus on large-scale development projects because those are the requests that we hear casually from developers. These were highlighted because urban renewal agencies can serve in the role of the bank, and because private development can help us achieve our goals for downtown defined in our plans. Two of the three communities highlighted in your board briefing memo, Hillsborough and Albany, entertain requests on a case-by-case basis / a semi-formal approach because catalytic projects like these do not happen every day. These communities demonstrate that heavy process is an essential. There is a need to understand if and how to get people to the SEDA board for consideration. And these other communities demonstrate that it can be simple in terms of process. Just a couple of things worth noting before your conversation tonight. We do have an existing loan program. SEDA has an existing loan program. It's for up to $200,000. It has a 50% match requirement, and it has a minimum $50,000 lending requirement. It's low interest. It has an allowance for lack of past credit and experience, but this loan has not been available because it's been utilized for the Blue Mackenzie project since. So it was funded through SEDA's revolving loan. That's why it hasn't been available. That revolving loan was used for the pre-development loan for Blue Mackenzie. And this loan program speaks to the urban renewal goal for downtown of revitalizing the building stock. And just to kind of put in perspective, the catalytic projects that other communities have considered have gone over this $200,000 threshold. So I have a couple of prompting questions. The first one was in your AIS. And I'd love to hear if the SEDA board is interested in developing a process to hear for project needs that would meet our downtown goals.
And before we get started on any of those questions, I'd like to clarify or some office cleanup is that I started the regular session ahead of the work session meeting and read the instructions for the regular session. We're currently in the SEDA work session. So those instructions I'll read after we adjourn this session. I'll read those instructions after I really start the regular meeting. So my apologies. Any questions for staff? Well, I'd like to make a comment. I think we absolutely should have a process. And that process should also encompass where all the funds would go and where they've been. And so we can demonstrate to anybody and being completely transparent that where all the funds go. And if we can see I'd like to be able to see and be able to demonstrate to the public that we're not excluding anyone or including exclusively anyone. And so it's not a good old boys thing, so to speak, or a group of friends taking care of a group of friends. I want to be able to make sure that we can distinguish between the recipients of those funds. And I really encourage and I support the lending trigger for that, even though it hasn't necessarily been used much, but to be able to maintain that and still have that available as an option. Anyone else? Go ahead, Corey.
Thanks. And just to build a little bit on what you said, as I looked at the three that you shared with us, I think I'm intrigued by where Beaverton's moving
Mhm.
because they also are, had been doing it a certain way and now are interested in, and I think this gets to a little bit of what Chair Pishnari was talking about is like, how do we encourage more diverse allocation across developers in a really transparent way? And so I'm very much for having a process and a very clear, transparent process. And I also like the idea of looking at both pre-development, the sort of pre-development work for folks, and what happens if you actually are ready to do the development. And when I was peeking around and poking around at the Beaverton one, I also like that they really call out that it's for developers and for property owners and for businesses, which we've also seen with our economic development is, we have some existing businesses that we've been able to help support for growth. So I think all of that is good and having a really clear process around it.
Go ahead, Beth.
I agree with Corey. I actually noticed that too on the Beaverton one. That was really interesting to me. And after reading through this, I was actually a little bit surprised that there wasn't a process already. And I absolutely think one needs to be in place. I think that's very important and important for the transparency of the program to, especially if you have, as we kind of grow and get bigger and whatnot, and you have more people interested in the program and maybe potentially more developers coming in at the same time asking. And I think that something needs to be in place for sure.
Sean?
Put me on the process list. Some sort of process does make sense. I think the question is the how and what we prioritize. And in general, like when I look at our needs now, we have a lot of ideas out there, right? A lot of good concepts. And right now, I think we just need a process that's going to help get the first one to the finish line. And that will help sort of unjam the rest of them. And I think I've got one other comment too. We're probably going to look at some sort of tax exemption when we have our city council hats on, and we've got plenty of other programs. And to me, whatever that process is, needs to fully encompass all the other buckets of, help and assistance and funding that we're giving projects.
Yeah, I concur with what Sean just said. I also wouldn't mind looking at a potential illustration if we did somewhat of a hybrid of Beaverton's, but folding in Albany's. I think I like the Albany's, the return on investment matrix.
Mhm.
I think would be good information to have for us to move forward and make decisions into the future, so we can have some sort of track record as how the money and projects performed. And I think too, and Beth mentioned prior work, or somebody mentioned, one of the two mentioned how much work we have into the projects prior to pulling the trigger and how the time and money or the time that staff put into these projects translates to a value and a money value. And I don't think we are currently tracking, or at least have some sort of sense of how much time we're putting into projects to find out 6 months down the road or a year down the road that it's not going to fly. But we have an investment, and
Yeah.
that to me, as in a business model, would show you if you were doing well or not so well, and potentially we could identify where we can make improvements so we don't have those failures or so many failures, or look at why it's taking so long to fail, so to speak. And I know it's probably a ton of work to look at, but I think it's would make the entire commission here to be more well-informed.
Right. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Oh, absolutely.
That's helpful. I feel like that can be considered with regards to thinking about the next step of this process, which I'm sounding like would be helpful to have. What would you like to see from developers in terms of understanding how much they've invested and how ripe their project is? What's important to understand at the point of funding requests for the SEDA board?
Go ahead, Steve, followed
You mentioned return.
followed
on
by
invest-
David.
Excuse me. You mentioned return on investment. What does that mean?
Albany has created a calculator for whenever they provide funds for projects. This looks at how much the Albany Urban Renewal Agency is providing
Yeah.
Relative to the total value of the new project.
Okay.
And then they can see how much that project's value, how long it will take to earn back that value within the district from tax
Pretty
increment.
much a lot of our urban renewal stuff, we don't make anything on it.
Mm.
We almost give it away.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to declare a potential conflict of interest. I'm going to make some comments that from a developer standpoint are not promoting, but I think you asked the question about what developers are looking for, and I think I can speak to that fairly accurately. As far as the Albany plan about doing any funds for pre-development, I would caution that just because developers typically know what they're going to get into prior to a project. I mean, the pre-development cost is not really where they need the help. Most of the help is either on SDC permit costs or tax abatement costs, or getting to the finish line, because financing, as you like the Blue McKenzie project illustrated, their financing kind of got away with them and their interest rates, so those kinds of gaps are typically, once the project and pulled the trigger from the developer's point of view, that's when they need the help, is to get that momentum to get them to the finish line. So I'd caution against the pre-development part, because that's mostly the responsibility of someone to bring us a presentation that's got some teeth and it's got some research and what I call some skin in the game. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you.
Steve,
And I also have a conflict of interest, so.
you have an actual or?
I don't have anything under construction or anything.
Yeah, you can just declare a potential conflict
Okay.
of interest similar to commissioner level.
I stay out of trouble.
Me too. So further direction, you need additional direction is for so I'm expecting you're gonna have some information coming back.
Yes.
In regards to past performances.
I think I just want to verify what I'm hearing.
Okay.
I'm hearing we are in favor of a process, so I can kind of pull together what we've talked about tonight, pulling some inspiration from these other communities. A couple of things that I heard were important are performance of the project, financial performance of the projects, equity in terms of allocation or consideration of allocation, and understanding what the dollars are going to. Is it pre-development? Is it post-development? And again, I just want to maybe get confirmation that the interest is in these catalytic projects, these ones that can help bring downtown that first one in mentality to help spur other big redevelopment projects. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I think that. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think I might add to that is I think for the board to have the ability to have a developer come in with, some cards and an explanation and do some sort of a presentation, I think it'd be really helpful, because for the most part, there's very few people who can actually visualize a development in their mind on a vacant piece of land when someone describes it
Yeah.
versus when they're just showing a drawing on a napkin or, some sort of poster that has some sort of visionary to it. I think that's really important, because all of us in the city and the county want Springfield to be envisioned in a very different way, and all of us have different goals. And I think also to bring that to the table, maybe the SEDA board would maybe identify some specific kinds of projects they would be milling for to maybe attract a developer that maybe would have not considered Springfield on the radar. Thank you.
All helpful. Thank you. And I just want to close the loop. In November, the SEDA board chair made a request to understand where SEDA allocations have gone in the past. That will be coming to you at the next SEDA meeting.
Thank you. Everybody good? Next item.
It's the only item for the work session.
That's
this evening.
perfect. So, okay, I'm going to adjourn the SEDA work session meeting and reopen the regular meeting. We need to do anything with roll call? Roll call is not changed, or we need to go ahead and call it again?
Go ahead and
Okay, it's called recall for the, roll call for this one again.
Board Member Van Gordon,
Still here.
Board Member Weber,
Here.
Board Member Mo,
Still here.
Vice Chair Rodley,
Here.
Board Member Blackwell,
Here.
Board Member Doyle, Chair Pictionary,
Here.
Board Member Lovall.
Present.
Okay, the next item would be communications.
Do you have a item to read into the record?
Oh, I gotta do that again. All right, here we go. I can't pull up the recorder. All right, so there is one time designated for public testimony this evening under business from the audience. If you are attending in person, please complete the request to speak card located at the city recorder's desk in the council chambers and turn them into the city recorder. If you are joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak either of those times, please use the raise the hand feature in Zoom. The order of public testimony is as follows. Anyone in person in the council chambers, and secondly, anyone who has raised their virtual hand. Any communications?
If you don't have any cards, we have no hands raised in
Okay.
Zoom.
I have no cards here. There is, next item is report from the chair. Is that right? I have nothing to report.
Okay.
ahead.
Then the next item would be old business. Item number one, this is the SDC program extension resolution. Resolution number one, a resolution incentivizing development in the downtown urban renewal area and Glenwood urban renewal areas by assuming payment of certain system development charges as established by the Springfield Municipal Code, section 3.406 through the period ending December 31st, 2028. And Ally Camp is here for this item.
Hey, folks, I'm going to provide a little bit of background on what's in the resolution. So before you is a resolution from our conversation back in November about the SEDA SDC program. This resolution seeks to extend the program as discussed. And a reminder, what we talked about in November was support for the current way of operating. There were no predefined types of projects or limitations on projects. It was offered in both Glenwood and downtown. And we heard support for both 5 and 10 years. You'll note that the resolution includes 5 years, but it can always be extended should you see the need. The resolution includes some thresholds to assure the program operates responsibly moving forward. These thresholds were considered by Economic Development, the Community Development Director, and the Finance Director. Since the program is based on what other folks are building, we don't have control over what may come in. Thresholds allow us to plan out expenses. Some specifics for downtown, for any SDC program agreements anticipated over $100,000, we propose that those can come back to the SEDA board, not for discussion on qualification for the program, but for discussion on management of payback. That is in the context of what we may or may not be spending at the time. So you all get a little bit of discretion there. Also for downtown, they will be repaid to the city as incurred. Otherwise, if there's no need to talk about deferment or repayment plans. For Glenwood, a cap is included for Glenwood, considering current indebtedness and anticipated needs of the Glenwood master plan area. That cap is currently set at $2 million. And just for a little bit of scaling to understand, previously over roughly a 10-year period, $1.3 million was spent on SDCs in Glenwood. So a cap of $2 million should get us a little bit further. These payment terms will be included in an MOU between the city and SEDA should this resolution be approved. And just a little bit about the how moving forward. Section 2.2 in the resolution indicates an applicant agreement so that we can assure requirements of grants as stated in the downtown and Glenwood urban renewal plans are met. Those requirements are that these SDC funds cannot be for owner occupied residences unless the owner qualifies as low to moderate income and the funds are being used to correct health and safety issues of the dwelling. Also, the agreement will ensure that there is consistency with land use provisions and requirement. It has to be completed in a reasonable time. And the project cannot restrict future sale, lease, or occupancy on basis of race, age, color, religion, sex, marital status, or national origin. Those are all outlined in section 600 and 800 of both downtown and Glenwood's urban renewal plans.
Very good. You ready for comment? So, and actually it might just grammatics or office is you got section 2 and section 2.
Hmm.
And then section 3 and 4, so section 3. So there seems to be out of sequence. Is that just me?
Do we have 2 twos?
2 twos.
Okay.
Yeah, I got section 1, section 2, and then 3. Just in case this becomes like an official document. Yes, Michelle, go ahead.
Can I add to the official document comments here? In section 3, it says the SEDA staff liaison is directed to annually report to the board on the to allow. So I don't know what goes on in between the and to there, but either something needs to be taken out or something needs to be added.
Catching a lot of little things tonight. So, yeah, and I just wanted to comment, I concur with the 5-year cap on that. I think it's a good time period.
Okay.
And there was one little comment. I think that was mostly it, was just wanted to support the 5-year cap on it. I guess we're ready to, anybody else have any more comments? All right, I'm going to entertain a motion.
I move that we accept resolution number 1 with the grammatical adjustments. A resolution incentivizing development in the downtown urban renewal area and Glenwood urban renewal area by assuming payment of certain system development charges as established by Springfield Municipal Code section 3.406 through the period ending December 31st, 2028.
Second.
A motion to adopt. You can say it.
Michelle, second.
You got it, okay. Let's take a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Van Gordon,
Yes.
Board Member Weber,
Yes.
Board Member Mo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rodley.
Yes.
Board Member Blackwell,
Yes.
Board Member Doyle, Chair Pictionary,
Yes.
and Board Member Lovall.
I'm going to recuse my vote with a direct conflict. Thank you.
Unanimous with one recusal. Motion's passed, resolution is passed. Any other business?
No other items.
It's adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Sir.
You.